I'm Julie Saunders.
I'm Jan Wilson. Julie and I both have experience as school librarians, and we've worked together as district library leaders.
In each episode, we'll dive into our profession with interviews and meaningful content to inspire you. We're not experts,
but we're pretty close.
The ideas and opinions shared by any host, guest, or listener are their own and do not represent those of any respective school district.
Welcome to Library Exchange.
This episode is sponsored by Niswonger AV, Advancing Technology, Designing Spaces.
Niswonger AV is your comprehensive K-12 education partner. With 50 years of expertise, Niswonger AV delivers innovative technology and strategic furniture solutions that transform learning environments.
Why choose Niswonger AV? Cutting-edge AV technology, intelligent furniture design, a consultant-driven approach, and family-owned commitment to excellence.
Advancing technology and learning spaces with old-fashioned personal service, because your library deserves more. Julie, it's not only time to record a new episode. In our part of the world, this is also the first day of a new school year.
The good thing about a new school year is that you get to start over. All the things that you wanted to do better, you now have the opportunity to do that.
We've talked about how we would like to see school librarians focus on their instructional role.
I think I'm about to hear one of your quotes.
Oh, yes, but it's actually, Julie, one that I hear from you. Leaders always start with the end in mind.
Yep.
So as school librarians, if our end is to work with a new teacher or attend grade level or content area meetings, we have to get started by making a plan.
Couldn't agree with you more. Let's introduce our guest. Today, we are joined by school librarian Mae Craddock. Mae works in a unique school that focuses on experimental education for grades 6 through 12.
Mae is a frequent contributor. Like when I looked you up, Mae, it took up 2 pages of articles. You're a frequent contributor to School Library Journal, and she's starting her 26th year as an educator this year. Yay. So welcome to Library Exchange, Mae.
Thank you so much, Janice. Julie, it's so fun to be on this podcast.
Great. Before we get started, can you tell us about the Community Lab School, the number of students, staff, demographics, and any details to provide our listeners with some context?
Sure. I am at Community Lab School. We are a experimental education school in Charlottesville, Virginia. We are a regular public school, so we have all the same rules and tests and everything else as everybody else does. We are 6 through 12, and we are a pure lottery, which means any student in the county can apply. And that application looks like their name and contact information. So we really don't know anything about them until they get there. There's 200 students in grades 6 through 12. And we have 2 project teams and an IB program. So in grades 6 through 8, it's multi-age. So they are all grouped together. There's 100 of them, and they are in flexible groups all the time. They might work with some kids one day, a different group of kids another day. So there's not really like classes or rosters as you would normally think of them.
So this is a true lottery system where there are no requirements for academics or attendance. It is really just random.
Yep, that's right.
Wow.
There's no requirements for attendance except residents in Albemarle County. And we do provide transportation, so they do get picked up at their regular bus stops and everything.
So, Mae, can you explain, and you kind of touched base on it a little bit, can you explain what it means to be a community lab school with interdisciplinary teams?
Sure. 6 through 8 has an interdisciplinary team, and then 9-10 has an interdisciplinary team. And that is a group of 6 teachers on both sides. And we all have different content areas. So we have an English teacher, a social studies teacher, a science teacher, an art teacher, a special education teacher, and me. And that's our instructional team. And we make projects for the students that weave all of those discipline areas together.
We definitely want to hear about some of those projects. But first, I want to ask you, it's great to hear that you're part of that team because school librarians are teachers.
We are.
To be a good fit for this type of school environment, what work styles or characteristics are important?
You really have to be a team player because there's 6 of you and you're all brilliant, right? So everybody on the team is super, super smart and very, very talented. Making sure that you bring your best to the table, I think, is really helpful. And also sort of a lack of territorialism. You can't be territorial about your stuff because there's 6 of you and you're all really good at your jobs. So making sure that everything you put in front of kids has gone through all 6 of you. So I might make a lesson and then the special ed teacher will go through and put in scaffolding so that it's accessible to everybody. The English teacher may go through and make sure all my grammar's right, which is important. So our special education teacher is amazing. Our social studies teacher is probably the nicest teacher that we have on staff. So she'll go through and make sure that everything really emphasizes that kindness. So even if it's not the content area, everybody has seen the lesson and everybody has edited the lesson. So
Wow.
whatever I've typed out might look completely different by the time the kids see it. So yeah,
That's
you
a
can't be
true
like
integration.
possessive of your stuff.
Yeah.
The important piece here is that you guys create these projects, these plans, and they have to be able to be implemented at other schools.
Yeah, we can't make any programs or changes or run any experiments that can't be replicated at a comprehensive school. This last year, we ran an experiment around reading groups, and we had organized the children in groups by genre so that kids would choose a genre that they really enjoyed and then they would be in a room with other kids who were reading that same genre. So different books,
Fun.
everybody had different books, but they were all reading the same type of content. We decided this spring to sort of flip that around and organize our reading groups by modality. So we had a group that was SSR, right? There was a group that did book club, a group that did read aloud, a group that did controversial issues. So, like, you had to talk about your book and think about the content and the implications of that book. So, we had to make sure that any changes we made in that reading program could be done at a comprehensive school. So, nothing
Wow.
that we do can be unique to our circumstance.
Did the students choose their modality or
Yes.
did you go, okay, great. Wow.
It was sort of a little bit of the illusion of choice where we gave them a choice and then, like, there were 2 or 3 who chose poorly and we, like, helped them make a better choice. Yes.
So, what type of information and media literacy lessons do you provide for your middle school and high school students?
So for middle school, we really focus on research and source reliability. So making sure that in every project, there is an element of research. So they are finding things, they are learning how AI is not really a search engine. They're learning about how to write prompts or write search queries. They're learning how to sort results into useful and not useful. We spend a lot of time teaching them to make annotated bibliographies because those will save them about a bazillion hours when they get to IB. And then in 9-10, we start working more closely with analyzing sources and making sure that they can not only find and assess relevance, but also use the information inside to draw secondary and third and tertiary conclusions.
I love the high level look at some of those learning strategies. But for people listening, can you give an example of a project that maybe you've done this past year that included some specific strategies that you used to actually complete the annotated bibliography instruction or complete some of these things?
Good question, Julie. Like, I guess, May, what I'm saying is, what do you bring to the table to those other teachers that they don't think about? You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Sure. Things that I'm bringing to the table definitely have to do with those research skills. I am in sort of two lanes on project team. My first lane is instructional, where I'm making sure that the students emerge from our school with solid research skills. So a good example of that is iSearch, which is the very first project we're going to do this year. So we are having students come in, they will research a topic of choice, something that they personally are passionate about or curious about, or something that has caught their attention. They will do a research project about that. In that, my jobs are going to be things like writing search queries and how to do search terms. The English teacher probably is going to come in and do summary writing and how to do those little summaries under your annotations to make sure those are good. Our social studies teacher is going to teach the part on evaluating the source and making sure that the source is relevant. And then I'm going to come back in and they have to do a demonstrative product. So whatever it is that they have researched, they have to have some sort of demonstration of it. So from that, we'll probably do a gallery walk where students will show their demonstrative products and their annotated bibliographies.
How great that your teachers are also involved in these pieces about source and credibility, because as librarians, sometimes it's frustrating when you work with a teacher, you find some great sources that they can use, or you teach them keywords and the teachers are like, oh, just Google it, or something like that.
And it's totally integrated. It's not isolated skills that they're learning one day this week in language arts and one day the next week in social studies, and you're having to pull it together. I mean, it sounds like it's a lot of overlap with this integration, how it's delivered. It's amazing.
Well, and there's the second lane that I'm in is for the teachers. Because we're a lab school, when we do make changes or run experiments or try new things, I make a lot of annotated bibliographies for the teachers. So when we are thinking about a change or trying something different, I'll go back and do a review of the literature so that whatever change we're making is based on some kind of research, so that we're not just grasping at straws and doing stuff randomly, because that's not my MO. I like to do things on purpose.
It's amazing.
Yeah, May, we forgot you were going to describe two lanes and we kind of made you pull over for a minute. But I wanted to ask, you talked about a technique called lateral reading to teach students to evaluate information. So can you talk a little bit more about this?
So lateral reading is a source reliability technique. So I don't know how old y'all are, but I'm very old. And when I was raised as a researcher, we had a bunch of checklists. Like there was like crap and snap. And there was like a bunch of where you would go through and like check off whether or not this was a reliable source. And that used to be really helpful when resources were not crowdsourced.
Right.
But now we live in the age of citizen journalism and we have lots of sources out there. And the way that we used to go through checklists isn't very reliable. AI can write things in the voice of any author at all. So going through and opening up tabs. So it's called lateral reading because it literally opens tabs across your screen laterally. You'll look at an article. It follows the very natural progression of thought where you start reading the page and then you're like, is that really true? And then you open a new tab and search the smaller fact. And then you look at that and you're like, actually, I don't know if that person is a reliable source. You open a new tab and search the author. And you're like, that's a really interesting. They may have had this other article that applies to this sort of tangentially. Now you opened up a third tab and you're sort of working backwards to find out where this information originated and whether or not it has any reliability, whether other people are saying the same thing, whether it appears in different kinds of sources, it appears in more reliable sources.
And you also commented that John Green has some.
Yes. He has a whole YouTube series on lateral reading that is very, very helpful. So if you have never tried lateral, honestly, you're probably doing lateral reading. You just didn't have like a name for it. You probably already do this, but he has an entire web series on how to do lateral reading that is very, very helpful for showing students how to do it.
Great. These are great tips. Wow, I'm so excited. So, you do so much that's collaborative with the students, and there's a lot of freedom in that learning experience. I think sometimes that teachers are afraid to allow too much learning freedom or collaboration because of classroom management. What
Mhm.
have you noticed about student behavior at your school?
We actually have significantly fewer discipline problems than other comprehensive schools. And there's a few reasons for that. We're a community, so we all have to work together. And that like collaborative learning model in which you will work in groups, sort of, period. Like that's one of the non negotiables. They need to negotiate like personal difficulties. So if they are having conflicts, they sort of have to work them out. We do have a restorative justice model with an amazing, amazing magical counselor where they go in there and I don't know what exactly happens in there, but when they come out, it's so much better. And the second thing I think really contributes to the um I wouldn't say like dearth of discipline problems, but like a lessening of discipline is the choice that students have. They are usually working on something in which they have a vested stake. In the iSearch project, they're going to be working on something that they are interested in. It's not me telling them what they're going to do. It is them telling themselves that this might be really interesting. So they are more engaged in the work because they care about whatever that work is.
So that's a life skill for them to be able to work in groups and then resolve conflict. So it's been a while since I looked at this, but that was the number one thing that potential employers are looking for, whether it's post high school or college, is can you work with others? Can you
So
work in a
true.
group? So, sidebar question, is there a wait list for teachers who are just like waiting and waiting and waiting for people to retire to come and work at your school?
Yes. I don't think we ever lack for applicants in hiring. That is actually my principal's superpower. Like if we talk about people have superpowers,
Yeah.
his big superpower is hiring. So he is very, very good at choosing the people who will be best on this team. And it's not always the most decorated or academic that come in. So a good example is our CTE teacher who is a school member for the Charlottesville city. He actually had like a whole different path to becoming a teacher, did not have tons of degrees and like little stars next to his name, but is absolutely a wonderful teacher and a great example for all of the kids. And he is so well respected without any stars. And the number of accolades aren't necessarily a measure of how well you're going to work on this team.
Wow, that's great. So, such good insight.
Sometimes it's not just about how well you know the content when you're an educator, and that's the piece that people don't think of. And I love that you have the background and content that you have that you bring to the team.
So, another role, of course, is promoting a love of reading with librarians. And so I understand that your library is physically fully integrated into the school as well. Can you explain how students access books that they choose themselves?
So I think this was one of the big surprise when we did our pre-meeting was that I don't have a library room. So there is not a room with bunches of shelves on the wall where all of the books are stored. What it actually looks like is when you walk into the school and look straight ahead, the high school collection lines the main hallway. So as they walk by, they can choose books. We do paper checkout. We tried doing laptop checkout or automated checkouts, and it really just did not work for a variety of reasons. So they really just put down their ID number and then the barcode of the book. And it's very simple for them to do.
You have to do what works, right? You just want to get the book into their hands.
You know, sometimes technology is amazing and does all kinds of stuff to make our lives easier, and then sometimes it doesn't. And I think we have to respect that, sometimes it's not always the best answer. And
I would think sometimes some of the traditional librarians out there that are more worried about book loss would probably have a hard time with that. Do you feel like you've had any trouble with book loss when they have so much freedom to choose?
yes and no. So yes, in that I can't hoard the books. Like, that's not a thing that can
Yeah.
happen, right? It is going to be the case that I don't know where all the books are, right? At the end of the year, I do clean out. So I'll go through all of the classrooms and take back all of the library books that are on the shelves, under the desk, like on top of the cabinet, all of that stuff. So when we do the clean out at the end of the year, I will go back and just reclaim all of the books. Yep.
Well, what I have to say about that, May, is the students who are at your school, you have a huge instructional role, and you're really modeling that piece of a
That's right.
librarian. So they don't leave your school thinking that all you do is circulate books.
Exactly.
So that doesn't need to be your focus so much about which books are lost or overdue, because you're so involved with those more important to me skills that you're impacting them with.
Sure. We do have a library committee, which is a contingent of kids who do reshelving. And also our in-house substitute will reshelve when she has a minute. So it's not me all on my own doing all of the things.
So can
It's
I
a
just
community
ask a
library.
detail? I just have one detail I want to ask. Where do they return the books?
I have a little bin that sits next to the shelf that they put it's like a regular
Okay.
library bin like you would have in a library that was in a room. It's just in a hall and not in a room.
Gosh, so fascinating. It's just different.
I
I
love
love it.
it.
Yeah, me
When you
too.
showed it to us, I mean, Julie and I like surprises.
Yeah.
And it's a cool concept. I
It's just
mean, you
a
don't have
whole
to
new
have,
way of
yeah,
thinking, right? It's great.
yeah. So as we close out, May, I do want to thank you for sharing examples of what's possible when librarians are partners in teaching and learning. You have such a positive attitude too. And I love that it's not just a concept at your school, it is what you're doing. And it's inspiring and a reminder of how information and media literacy can be built into every subject when people work together.
Yes, collaboration is the key. I really appreciate how today's discussion highlighted the librarian's role as more than just a resource provider. When librarians are included from the very beginning of a project, planning through to implementation, the impact on student learning is profound. May, will you remind everyone how they can follow you on social media and your email address, please?
Sure. I'm on social media at I am Craddock. And then they can also email me. Email is probably the best way. And it's may.craddock@gmail.com.
Thank you
Great.
so much for your time today.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Julie, there is a lot to discuss in this recap. And I started the episode with the quote about leaders begin with the end in mind. Remember?
Mhm. I
So
remember.
I don't have ESP because we spoke with May before we recorded, and I knew that this concept, this model of her school is a shining example of that quote. So we've exchanged ideas. It's time for the recap. Tag your it.
So, the idea of an interdisciplinary team where the librarian is completely integrated in the planning and implementation of the project based learning tasks is such a dream. Wow.
Yes.
The question that most educators would have about that comprehensive lab school approach is, can you do this with any child? And the
Uh-huh.
answer is yes. Her students are a cross section of a normal public school setting with a high percentage of students who are served with special services. It's such a fulfilling situation where she can integrate information and media literacy skills into every project that the students are required to do.
Is this school real? Yes. Um, yeah, so every project included, like you said, those skills, and it's all shaped and refined, but by those teachers before it ever reaches the students, they all put their eyes on it. And so again, I'm thinking there's going to be some people listening to this episode who are going to say, this isn't possible at my school, for one reason or another. But what I was thinking about are there parts of this model that can be replicated You can't just walk into a grade level, or maybe you did, Julie, I don't know, and say,
No.
hey, let's all plan a project or experiment
Right.
together. Who's in?
Wouldn't that be
um,
great?
but that doesn't work for everyone. But as a school librarian, you do learn those teachers who are willing to go there with you. And those teachers who are change agents in your school who could talk to others about coming on
Yes.
board. So take those small wins because, she mentioned for this to be effective, teachers need to not be territorial about their lesson ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's okay. Some teachers are. And then I thought about the times where a teacher had already designed their project and they would come to me with everything already prepared.
Right.
Some parts of it didn't always work. So that's when you say, let's do this again next year with these changes so that students are successful with X, Y, and Z. So that's a takeaway from this concept if you can't do this from the get-go.
And definitely some things that you can do if you can't do the whole integration and be that integrated librarian that you would like to be. I love that she would make the annotated bibliographies for the teachers. I'll say that again. I love that she made annotated bibliographies for the teachers. She works hard to make sure that the teachers are using credible sources also. She also provides, and I know that you really liked this part too, she provides a great example of how to use the lateral reading
Oh my
approach
gosh, yes.
by using those tabs across the top of the browser to research laterally. It really is a great tip to help students cross compare that credibility of the information they're using. That's a great just instructional strategy you can use today.
She, again, is not teaching the content, Julie, and that's kind of what we've been talking
Yes.
recently at work about is Mae is not teaching the curriculum, the subject. What
Right.
she's bringing in are her areas of expertise where all certified librarians can do this. Those pieces to focus on source reliability, searching effectively, and those annotated bibliographies. And I'm glad you mentioned lateral reading
Hmm.
because you know what? It does replace those outdated checklist
Yes.
style evaluation methods I used to teach. And in this day and age, how many students already have multiple tabs open anyway?
Right. Right. They feel
They're
comfortable doing that.
they're working that way. We all do that.
Yep.
Do you want me to tell you what I did with lateral reading after we
Yeah.
recorded?
Yeah.
So we also talked about how the skills that businesses and companies are looking for. I did my little lateral reading. I had several tabs open from Harvard University, LinkedIn, some other ones, and it is problem solving,
Yeah.
teamwork, communication, and curiosity and adaptability. And that's what they're getting from these projects as well.
All of those, all of the above. Her school is living proof that when students are engaged, there are fewer discipline issues as well. It's common for educators to be nervous, about allowing too much freedom to explore and collaborate in some situations because of classroom management. Let's just be honest. People don't like to say that out loud, but often that's the reason why.
Yes.
But when students are interactive and collaborative and given a voice and given ownership over their learning, that decreases behavior issues.
I wish that we could make this type of school librarianship, a standard for our profession.
Yeah.
You can take steps to change the way your role is viewed, and embedding librarians in instructional planning leads always to deeper student learning.
So her role is very, very instructional, but I have to also mention that concept of having the library books being lined through the hallways. Wow, what an interesting concept. I mean, talk about easy access. I think that it's a real thinking outside the box way to get books in the hands of kids. And it's a great idea to have the student library committee to reshelve the books when needed.
So, you guys, if you want to follow Mae, and she spells her name Mae, you can follow her on social media at I am Craddock, and her email address is mae.craddock@gmail.com.
Make sure to visit our website at www.libraryexchangepodcast.com.
You'll find episode notes and links. You can even submit your questions or inspiring stories that may be featured on the podcast.
If you're looking for some swag for your library or book-loving friends, visit libraryexchange.etsy.com.
That's a lot of URLs, so I'm glad you had to say all of that, Julie.
Thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back for our next episode of Library Exchange.